Hello, everyone, and welcome to ALD No Limits. I'm Christy with ALD.
And I'm Ken with AMN. Our guest this episode is Greg. Welcome to ALD No Limits.
Hi, Greg. It's so nice to see you. And as you can see, for those watching on YouTube, Ken and I have new hats, new ALD No Limit hats. And we sported them this past week at the ALD Alliance annual meeting. And I think I could, speak for both of us in saying we had a great time connecting with fellow patients, with clinicians, with researchers, and we heard so many great stories from patients, especially.
Absolutely.
And it was our first opportunity to do a live podcast, and that was really nice too.
It's coming up in a couple weeks.
Great.
So, Greg, tell us about yourself. To introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about, where you're from, what your interests are, sort of all of the things outside of ALD.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. I'm Greg Allsup. I live in San Diego, California, with my husband. So I am from Phoenix, Arizona originally, but I came out to San Diego with the Navy. And then after I got out of the Navy, I just never left, because why would I want to go live in 120-degree weather again in the summer? So San Diego just became home. So it's just my husband, and our one dog. We're very much outdoors camping people, and we love our dogs. We always have dogs. We unfortunately, you lose them, and then they're just such a big part. We end up getting another dog right away, rescuing another dog, because it really just brings us so much joy and happiness as a couple. Other than that, when we're not camping in our trailer, we enjoy traveling. My husband is Austrian, so we go to Austria and Europe quite often. So my husband is currently in Argentina for work, so he gets to enjoy, and he's going to Uruguay and Buenos Aires and all these places, and so it's exciting for him. But I'm kind of stuck at home working, so yeah. Professionally, so in the Navy, I started as a hospital corpsman, so basically kind of like a medic. My first job was actually in labor and delivery, and so it was very interesting, because the Navy, everything moves very quickly. And my first job was working in labor and delivery as a 19-year-old. It was just so interesting how life changes. And then I saw a surgery for the first time, and I was like, oh my God, that's the coolest thing I've ever seen in my life. I want to do that. So I went to scrub surgical tech school, and that was pretty much my career for the last 25 years in various roles of working in surgery, outpatient, inpatient. When I was in the Navy, I was deployed to Iraq, and we did surgery in tents. I've been an instructor, a program director, and now I'm a manager. So I've kind of done a lot over the last 25 years. So I'm 44 now. So I really started right from the get-go. 18, joined the Navy, start working. And I really just have been working ever since. It's just a big part of who I am. But as my condition has gotten worse, working is very challenging for me. I have a very physical job. So I've actually made the recent decision to essentially retire from my and I'm just going to work for my husband, who's a self-employed engineer, help him out, and kind of give us the autonomy to travel and do whatever we want with the laptop. And so really just looking for a lifestyle change. It's kind of my life in a nutshell before AMN.
Yeah, thanks so much for sharing. How interesting the trajectory of your career and how, it evolved, but also is such an important position to have, and very intense it must have been at times.
Yeah. It was just, it's not an easy job, but I love what I do. I love working in surgery. I love the team environment. It's really it's its own world, and it's been a great career, something I've been very proud of. when I was, so I don't know when you want to get into the AMN stuff. So, throughout my last 25 years, I've worked in surgery. 13 years ago, I got up in the morning. I was 31. Got up in the morning to go to work. Everything was completely fine. My story is a little bit different, I think, from what I've heard, and because my symptoms were very acute. It was like literally day and night. So I went to work and I was like just trying to walk, and I was like, something is really, really wrong with my legs. They're just so stiff. I just couldn't move them, and I just I have a very strong work ethic. So I'm like, I'm just going to get power through the day and I'll figure it out later. Or maybe I just slept wrong. I didn't have any pain. I drove home. I was getting out of the car and it was taking a long time for me to get from the car to the door. And so my husband came out and was like, what is going on? I was like, something is really just wrong with my legs. And he was like, oh no, we're going to urgent care right now. And I was like, oh no, it's fine. I just want to sleep it off. And he's like, no, we're going. So they took me into urgent care. From there, I was admitted the same night to the hospital because they're like, I think it's something neurological. There was signs of spasticity, just really kind of from the get-go. So then it just kind of began 6 months of testing. No idea, no clue, specialist to specialist. I think this part of my story is not unfamiliar to many people to go through this journey. It was so challenging going through the diagnostic phase. You've gone through everything from doctors telling you it's in your head to I think you want to have a condition to just very emotionally draining. So that really kind of took a toll on me mentally, because it was like, is it in my head? Is there something wrong? And I was like, no, something is really not right. I cannot walk like I used to. And but I just kept going to the doctor, kept doing what I was doing. It just really kind of changed the course of my career and trajectory, because at that time I was in school because I wanted to go back to be an RN, because just more responsibility, more direct patient opportunities. And I ended up kind of just dropping out of school because I said I can't mentally do both of these at the same time. It was just very draining. Finally, I went to, I got referred to a neurologist at the hospital organization that I worked at. I mean, that's where the bulk of my care was, but I had some referrals out of network. Got back into my network and saw my neurologist. And the first thing he says is, Greg, there's something wrong. I don't know what it is, but we'll figure it out. And it was like that instant sigh of relief that I had somebody on my side for the first time. And it was just this very old school neurologist that had his old school doctor medical bag and his stethoscope and his his bag with his little testers, and it was just so it was really refreshing. It made not knowing what was wrong is not as scary, because I didn't have to worry about, is this something I'm just making up in my mind, as many physicians were trying to convince me of. Because all MRI tests, everything was normal. The only thing that was abnormal was an EMG study, and I did have some spasticity and a positive Babinski sign. But that was enough to kind of convince my neurologist to, do more testing and rule out, MS, which was pretty easy to rule out. And so then he goes, do you have a family history of anything? And I said, no, nothing. And I was 31 at the time. So, really kind of on track for AMN symptoms. And he goes, I think you may have this condition called adrenoleukodystrophy. I want to just do a simple blood test for very long fatty chain acids. So that was it. So those came back, C26 sky high. Then they did the genetic test and the confirmation for the ABCD1 gene, and then that was kind of it. And it was like, okay, basically, I'm sorry you have this condition. Good luck. Because there's just not a lot of options. There wasn't a lot of knowledge on it.
Right.
And I'm sorry if I'm just talking. I'm just kind of going with it.
No.
So I just was like, okay. They said you can take baclofen for the spasticity, and I was like, okay, but it makes me like super tired. But my legs weren't horrific. Like I could get along. It was just everything was at a slower pace. My foot drop wasn't terrible. I got an AFO, and that really made a difference. I wasn't using any mobility devices, so I was just kind of going with the flow. And they're like, oh, it's a slowly progressive disease and it's not much you can do about it. Treat the symptoms, go to an endocrinologist. I didn't have Addison's at the time, but I was tested, and finally ended up with Addison's. But I was already being tested and treated. I was on top of that, so that wasn't a big deal. My husband, who's Austrian, is very, how can I put it? He's very persistent. And I was looking at studies for AMN, and there was a study in Germany. It was the MD1003. It was a high biotin study. And so I was able to get into that, very luckily, because I was an American. I had to pay for my travel, and my symptoms were not borderline severe enough to really get into the trial. But I got in. So for 2 years, the first 2 years of my condition, actually, I got into the trial after the first year of it. That was in the trial, and I'd fly to Germany every 3 months, do all the testing, the MRIs, the scans, get my case of drugs. And, I was in Germany for 3 days and, get a suitcase worth of drugs and go back. It was very awkward. So I did that for 2 years. And during that first 2 years on that drug, I had absolutely no change in my symptoms. The second, within months of getting off of the medicine, is when I started progressing again. And it's just kind of been slowly progressive over the last 10 years.
Wow. That's interesting. I don't know if I know much about that study. I never really followed much about that, but I want to go, before we continue, if we go back, when you went to the emergency room, before that, did you feel like there was gradual changes at all, or was it just that, okay,
nothing.
It's here?
Nothing. Absolutely nothing. It was literally overnight. I was snowboarding in Park City the week before.
Wow.
That was so weird about it. I didn't have the bladder problems that I have now. I didn't have anything.
Well, yeah, it's usually, but I want to say, again, I was pretty much diagnosed at 31, 32. First symptoms at 31, but mine were I was tripping and falling over, nothing like that. You didn't have any
nothing. Literally went to bed with not knowing anything was wrong with my legs to waking up to what's wrong with my legs.
Yeah. Huh. Wow.
It's really scary. And,
it is.
Yeah.
The diagnostic journey, like you said, is shared by so many people. I feel like, it's just unusual. And it really bothers me that doctors would say it's in your head. It's like,
he literally said right in front of my husband, I think you want to have ALS. I think it's in your head.
No, wow. No one wants that. No one wants that. That's
no one wants that. I was offended, beyond offended. Yeah. It's really that was one of the most disgusting things that a physician should ever say to a patient.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's terrible. Well, and sorry, go ahead, Ken.
I was going to go kudos to this doctor, though, that kind of put 2 and 2 together that quick. That's pretty impressive. With the diagnosis, thinking of this
really quick, but then it took longer. Once I met him and he had the thought in his head, it was quick. It took longer to get the insurance approval, and then did the blood, and then get it from the lab. That's what took the longest than him just saying this could be it.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Yeah, that the other holdups were, the blood work and the insurance, right? So I'm curious.
Insurance approval, yeah.
Yeah, nonsense. I'm curious about this trial in Germany. So you said your symptoms didn't get worse. Did they stay about the same?
They did exactly the same. Exactly the same. Nothing. There was absolutely zero progression while I was on the medication. It ended up not getting approved. And in my mind, I felt like this halted my symptoms. and then then I didn't have access to the drug. It didn't get approved, and that whole study thing. They were testing it. I think it wasn't. It was for MS. It was a anti. I don't remember what it was supposed to do with the myelin, but
Yeah.
I felt it worked because months after I was off of it is when I started like, oh my God, my legs are getting worse. So it was just very coincidental, and it was noticed by my husband.
Yeah.
Yeah. So tell us about, from that time after the trial ended to now, how has your condition progressed? And
It's progressed. So I actually have a baclofen pump. So I got that actually just a couple years, like shortly after the study. No, I actually had it in the study. I got it relatively early because I was like, the baclofen just made me so sleepy, zonky. Like it just didn't do anything. And then he was like, oh, there's, intrathecal baclofen and we can do a test dose. And then the second he did the test dose, I could walk completely normal again. I was like, oh my God, I want that. I got to have that. And so the baclofen pump I've had for 12 years now, 11 years. And I've had it changed once. Had a catheter kinkage, and that was kind of a nightmare. But really, it's just been very slowly progressive. It's just the overall, it's not been speedy, but where I am now, it's definitely the worst it's ever been. I use a cane all the time. I struggle with the rollator. I know that's the safer, better option because I do fall a fair amount. I struggle getting around with it. I'm a little bit stubborn. So when my husband and I travel with a wheelchair, and then I use my wheelchair and cane for like long walking.
Yeah.
I have my AFOs, and then the bladder is the worst. The bladder is the worst. Honestly, I can deal with my legs. The bladder is horrific, and I don't want to get Botox. So it is what it is.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. We've
when you
had.
see
So
Yeah, go ahead, Christine.
I was just going to say, when you say bladder, and I had this conversation with some women just a little while ago, what are the issues? We say dysfunction, right? But is it urgency? Is it lack of control? Yeah.
It's all of the above. I mean, it's from the time I get the sensation I have to go to the bathroom. If I'm not at a toilet in 30 seconds, it's coming out whether I want to or not. There is no holding it. So
Right.
that is a real. You really have to plan your life around your bladder.
Yes.
And so that's what's exhausting. And that's my husband has really been the rock for me throughout my entire journey. Always somebody who thinks ahead before I would think ahead. Okay, this is how long it's going to be to walk, and this is what you're going to need, or this is where the nearest bathroom is. And he would just always think of that for me, which is like you couldn't ask for a better support system than that. And,
I love that.
So,
that's so great.
He's great. He's really been, if we go camping, okay, I can't walk, so we'll do an e-bike or we'll do this kind of scooter or this. And, he's just always thinking of different ways that I can participate equally, because it's getting around is not easy on my legs.
And what is his name?
Gerhard.
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 Let's give Gerhard a shout out. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
So besides him, who are your, other people on your support team, like people who know about your condition?
You? I mean, I don't have a huge family. I actually lost my mom in December, and so that was really awful. And she was 63, and so it just, thank you. It just really made me kind of like open up my eyes to like, I love my job, but it's a lot of stress, and I'm like, in the physical and then mental stress. I'm like, and then losing my mom at such a young age, I'm like, I really need to life and do something different. Give back in a different way, volunteer more, that kind of stuff is what I really want to do. But my mom is, I lost my mom, but I have 2 siblings, a sister and a brother, both younger. They're fine. I have my dad. He's in Arizona. My whole they're all in Arizona. And then I have my aunt and her family, and that's all I have. And then I have my in-laws, which we're very close with. And so yeah, we're a small family, but we're close. Except for my brother and I, we argue a lot.
Who doesn't? Who doesn't? The brotherly love. So going on the family then. So
Yeah,
was
well,
there
right.
any,
There's always that. It doesn't mean I love them any less.
all right, yeah. But was there any other testing done? You know, like you said they're fine. Was there any other testing done with the family at all, like genetic testing or?
Yeah. So my sister. Yeah, I don't know if my brother ever got tested. I told him to get tested, but he's like, I
Right.
mean, doesn't have any symptoms, so he just never got tested.
Yeah.
My sister, I really made her get tested because she has 3 young boys, and they were really
Okay.
young at the time. And so I was like, get tested, see if you're a carrier. She was tested, and she was not. So I was like, okay, because I was worried about the boys.
Right. Yeah.
But I'm the only one in my family, and it's yeah, just strange. My mom, it was interesting. So my mom, she had started having really bad bladder problems too, and then her legs started getting weaker and weaker,
Yeah.
and she was just like this. The last year of her life was really tough on her, and she was like, I don't have any balance anymore, and so she's using a walker all the time. And I was like, Mom, I think it's the AMN, and then so I was like, just go see a neurologist and see physical therapy or whatever, and nothing really changed, nothing really happened. And then when she ended up in the hospital before she passed, they had done an MRI and found out that she had a stroke that was about a year before. So the stroke was actually the cause of her leg issues, likely not the AMN. So just kind of interesting. So nobody in my family, no grandparents, no nothing.
And
but
your
she
mom
was a
wasn't
carrier. She did get tested, so it wasn't.
Okay.
She was.
Yeah.
I was going to say,
Yeah.
did your mom ever get tested for ALD? And you?
She did.
that
So
question.
she never got the genetic test, but her very long fatty chain acids were elevated.
Yeah. Well, I will adopt you as a brother because I'm one of 5 and I'm the only one with ALD. But so I like to adopt brothers in the community who have ALD or AMN. So you can be my new brother.
Yeah. I love it. I love it.
And also you should know that people with ALD, right, Ken, are better looking than other people, smarter,
We
funnier.
we don't have hair, but
Funnier.
Balder.
Yeah. I mean, we're very talented.
It was funny. I've been bald since my early 20s. Not this bald, but rather bald. And
right.
when I was in Germany, in the doctor, because there was nobody here that knew anything about AMN on the West Coast. So I'm in Germany. He goes, AMN is that's toxic to the hair follicles too, that fatty acids. And I was like, oh, is that why I'm bald? He goes, probably. I was like, okay.
Yeah.
We have all the good qualities. You could have some of my hair.
Exactly. Yeah.
Rub it in, but yeah.
Sorry. Women don't have that symptom.
So Ken, how old were you when you started having symptoms?
Probably about 30, 31, I think was my initial symptoms.
Oh, so same age. Yeah.
It's about the same age. Yeah, and again, my starting to get where I was depending on more aids, like I went to a cane, and that was probably about 37, 38-ish, and then AFOs. I did almost exactly sounds like the same, I've adopted the rollator life, but to each their own, whatever works. But so it's and not every AMN case, as we know, is the same, but there's lots that we can all relate to again.
There's a lot of rollover, and I definitely know my case is unique with the sudden onset of the symptoms.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I think that's unique, but I'm so glad you shared it because other people might experience that as well.
Yeah.
So, so besides your family, I'm assuming you have friends, community, others that
I have friends. We have a very close. Yeah, we have a we don't have a lot of friends, right? But the friends we have are quality friends. We have a core group of about 10 friends, and one of them is my best friend from high school that I've known for almost 30 years now. So, it's just a really, really, just great group of friends. We travel together, we camp together, we go everywhere together. We'll stay at each other's house and go to dinner, and just a really, really good, close knit group of friends. And I have a reputation, and sometimes it's my legs, and sometimes I'm just tired and I just want to like decompress and not be around people. And so when we're with our friends or something, and everybody's around the campfire, I'm like, okay, I'm going to bed. And so I'm always known as I'll go to bed first, and you go on the walk, and I'll just stay and sit outside on the chair by myself, and that's my reputation. But what I like is they let me be what
You.
works for me, and they don't
You
judge
are,
me.
yeah.
Yeah, right,
Love
which
that.
is great.
That is great. I love it. So, what might you say to somebody newly diagnosed with AMN? What advice would you give them?
It's not the end of the world. It's not the end of the world. I look at it as it's a convenience, but it shouldn't be the forefront of your life. Right? You should don't let it stop you. You can still do a lot. I worked in surgery with a cane. I'd put my cane on the wall, and then I'd go scrub into surgery, and then after surgery I'd get my cane and I'd do it all again, and I did that for years. So
Right.
you can do it.
I
Those
love that.
great words, and you are so right. Though, yeah, it's not sort of to say it's not the end. It's as I said, it's not the end. It's only the beginning, which is kind of cliche, kind of. But I was like, but it really is. I'm like, you're
Yeah.
continuing, and it's a sort of a new beginning.
And so, what does your
Yeah.
healthcare look like now? Are you doing the yearly MRI, brain MRI? Um,
I,
where do you go for
I'm not,
care?
and I'm not, and my husband is mad about that. Yeah. So I
You're
haven't gotten
hard.
an
We're going
MRI
to
in about
talk
4 years. I'm
to
not gonna lie. He's already yelling at me. So I have an appointment with my neurologist on the 31st.
Okay.
So I'm going to get my baclofen adjusted. I'm going to get an exam. And so when I saw him last, I asked him. So my neurologist that diagnosed me, he was my neurologist for a decade plus, and he retired. And so I got a new young neurologist, and I met him for the first time a year ago. And I said, well, I was like, okay, what about my MRI? And he was like, oh, you don't need it. And I was like, I
Yeah.
don't need it. I thought I should get tested and then in my mind, I'm like, okay, I don't need it. So I just let it go. So not good, but anyway, Gerhard is on me, and so I'm meeting with him, and I'm going to get it ordered and get tested. But I meet with my neurologist regularly. I have an appointment with my endocrinologist coming up, just for, it's been 2 years since I saw him, but I need to kind of touch base on that. I was in physical therapy a couple years ago. I was not good at physical therapy. I'm not going to lie. That's Gerhard was always yelling at me about that too. But again, it's really the shift in my life at this point is less about work and more about taking care of myself. I'm like, it's very physically and mentally draining. So I get home and I'm just physically exhausted. It takes a lot to be on your legs all day. I know you guys know that
All
it's
right.
physically and mentally exhausting to stay vertical. And so I get home and I am just exhausted. And so I don't do anything else. And so that's really the shift in the focus of my life of leaving my career after 25 years and now taking this time for myself. And I also want to give back to anybody within the AMN ALD community, because I think that mentorship and learning from others is really something that's extremely valuable.
Yes.
And having that connection. That's where I am now. So
I love that. That is so inspiring. And yeah, I'm just curious, like, how are you? It sounds like you're really positive about this new transition. What is the timeline for sort of stopping work,
May
teaming up
1st
with
is
your
my last day at
husband?
work. May 1st.
Oh, wow, it's coming right up. Wow.
Yeah, I gave a 90-day notice. I gave a note. My last day was supposed to be March 6th, and then I said, okay, I'll extend. I'll help with the transition, because I have a few departments under me, so I want to make sure that it's smooth. So I stayed longer, but I said on the condition that I work part time and use my PTO for the remainder after March 6th, and so that's kind of what I've been doing, because I'm really I'm ready. I'm ready for the change. So yeah, so I'm gonna help my husband out, and we're gonna travel. And first thing that we're doing May 10th, we're going up to the Kern River we're going to camp on the river for a week, and then we're going to go up to like Mammoth area, or Lake. So we're just going to be on the road for a month, kind of from the get-go.
Will you take the dogs?
Yeah.
Oh, always. That's camping and dogs. It goes hand in hand for us.
Yeah.
Right? Dogs love nature. They like to be out. So we've always had our dogs in our trailer, and it's their second home too. So it's going to be good. But this dog we got now, Max, we just got him. We just rescued him about 2 months ago, and he's a little hyper thing. He's a border collie, Malinois mix. So he's very energetic. I can't walk him. That's the difficult part. But I can drive him up to the park and throw the ball for him. But he's a lot of energy, so we're still training him. So he's been camping once. So we'll see how he does on this long trip with a limited space inside anyway.
I love it. An adventure.
That is an adventure.
An adventure, yeah.
All right, so Ken has the final question for you.
If you could live one day without ALD, what would you do?
Oh my God, it'd be something with my legs, obviously. I still have dreams about being able to use my legs appropriately, right? I'd be on the slopes. I'd be snowboarding. It's the one hobby that I've always loved that I miss the most. I'd be in the snow.
Yeah.
There's so much to that though too. You're not, and ideally you're not going to have to run to the bathroom, and you can do that and not have to worry like it's I mean, you can't.
I could just drink. I could just drink and not think about where's the bathroom.
Yeah, this is great. Snowboarding and drinking. I like it. That's hard. We've never had that response before, so yeah.
I know, I love it.
That sounds like it. That sounds like a day. Sounds like a good day. It's the last thing I did before AMN. It'd be the first thing I did without it.
Yeah. And where would you go snowboarding? What's your favorite location?
I don't know. It's so that honestly, just for like nostalgic purposes I've been snowboarding with AMN. It just wasn't very pretty. But I'd go just to Park City. You know, we travel all over the world, but Park City was just like, it was the best snow that either of us had ever experienced. My husband came out of the womb in skis, and he was like, "This is wonderful." And so I'd go back to Park City.
Awesome.
Nice.
I love that. Well, it's been so much fun chatting with you and learning about your journey, and you're certainly an inspiration to, other men with
Likewise.
AMN. And, we appreciate your time today. What we're trying to do is hear as many stories as possible so that we can connect to one another and shed light on our disease. Yeah. So thanks for being on ALD No Limit.
And thank you both for everything that you do for the community. I know that you guys are really both highly active in everything ALD. So thank you guys for what you do.
Yes. And go Gerhardt. Keep on him.
That's right. All right, everybody. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Take care.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.